Kari Byron from Mythbusters, and this is total crap.
Crawlies.
No!
Oh, it's a bug.
Crash testing my way through life. And how they got through it. It's scary and daunting, and if you can read how somebody else did it.
When people talk about Mythbusters, they often only think of the main hosts, Adam and Jamie. But real fans of the show will also fondly remember Kari Byron. Carrie made Mythbusters possible by running the build team, creating the equipment needed to test whatever wild theory the hosts come up with. Over the course of the show, the build team has used 12 tons of explosives, literally found a needle in a haystack, and done countless other zany stunts that were only possible with Carrie's expertise. But while you might think you know Carrie pretty well, it turns out there's a lot to her that wasn't portrayed on the show. From unexpected beginnings in India, to her surprising phobia, and her dramatic exit from the show. But how many of these are rumors? How many of them are plausible? How many of them are true? And how many of them are good old myths? Well, put your safety goggles on and your earplugs in, because today we're going to bust some explosive myths about Kari Byron. If you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a premiere. Now it's time to gear up and head on out to find out exactly what happened. Myth. Carrie was a successful engineer before Mythbusters. Watching Mythbusters, you'd certainly think Carrie had a background in engineering or science, or at least TV hosting. After all, the show is known for being one of the most popular and reputable science education shows. But in reality, Carrie's past was much different than you might think. In fact, it's a miracle she even got on the show at all. When Carrie graduated from San Francisco State University with a degree in film and sculpture, she had no idea what she wanted to do with her life. She spent a year backpacking in South Asia and working on art projects. Carrie could have gotten a job in the film industry and settled down. But Carrie wouldn't take any job. She heard about the special effects lab that would eventually host Mythbusters and decided right away that she wanted in. Wanted it so bad she began showing up every day to the studio, not taking no for an answer. All she had in her file were pictures of sculptures she had made. But it was lucky the boss was something of a sculpture fan. And there was one he liked enough that he relented and told her she could work there, but as an unpaid intern. So if you're like me, just hearing unpaid intern makes you want to throw up. But Carrie was dedicated. She took the job, or internship, and had to work countless hours on the side to make ends meet. Thankfully, eventually she got paid. The show paid her $100 to 3D scan her butt so they could test whether suction could pull a person out of an airplane toilet. All of that sounds like more than I could take, but Carrie persisted, and finally was given a paid role on the show. Consider this myth busted. Myth. Carrie and Tori Belleci had a secret relationship on set. When Carrie got famous for leading the build team, she did so with her co-host, Tori Belleci. The two were a very popular pair, not just for building test materials, they also built up a lot of chemistry in their time working together. This has led fans to speculate for years there has to be something going on between those two, right? Bzzzt. Wrong? No way. Well, at least as Carrie tells it, there was never any romantic feelings between her and her co-host. If you don't believe her, there's more facts to back up her case. Carrie had been in a long-term relationship with Paul Urich even before the show aired. He's an artist, and the two got married in 2006, and in 2009 they had a daughter. Myth busted. So that's all, right? Happily ever after? Not so fast. The story doesn't end there. At some point, Carrie and her husband began drifting apart, and in 2019, she sadly sued Urich for separation. So while we assume Belleci isn't in the picture, Carrie is also a very private person, so anything is possible. But one thing is clear, no matter who she's seeing, Carrie's story is far from over.
I think they are underestimating my destructive powers.
Myth. Kari Byron has a fear of technology. Okay, this has to be false, right? I mean, Carrie made a career out of her skill with manipulating technology, everything from launching cannonballs to 3D scanning her buttocks. But remember, Carrie didn't have a traditional path to the tech career, and it turns out that the internet has actually been a big issue for Carrie for quite a while. She explained that she's always been scared about the effects that technology and the internet can have on people's personal lives. But can you imagine going to work every single day and being surrounded by something that terrifies you? But her problem goes deeper than that too. Carrie wrote that when she saw her 19-month-old child successfully use her iPhone to watch a Yo Gabba Gabba video, she knew she had to make a choice. Would she continue to try to avoid social media and risk losing her connection with her daughter, who was the most important person in the world to her, or would she face her fears? And as it turns out, she chose the second option, and even started a Twitter account soon after. While she still has a healthy fear of the internet, she has decided not to let that affect her career and her family life. So I think we can consider this myth confirmed. But what do you think? Was Carrie right to do this? How has the internet affected your personal relationships? Sound off in the comments. Myth: Kari Byron was fired from Mythbusters. Since you decided to watch this video about this Mythbusters star, you've probably had one big question in your mind. Why did Carrie leave the show? Fans across the world were outraged when Carrie, along with her co-stars Tori Belleci and Grant Imahara, unexpectedly left the cast of Mythbusters in 2014. So what was the reason that Carrie was pushed out of the job she loved so much?
Is total crap.
The answer, it turns out, is complicated. The executive producer for the show blamed Carrie and her co-workers, saying that negotiations for contracts fell through. Did the execs get greedy and decide that Carrie just wasn't worth her salary? Or did Carrie overplay her hand and ask for too much? It's really anybody's guess, but different sources tell different stories. Carrie claimed on Twitter, remember she has one now, that Mythbusters was taking a new direction, implying that the bosses didn't want her around anymore. But if this wasn't already messy enough, a third source, Business Insider, claimed that something different happened. They said that half the cast of Mythbusters was fired for basically no reason at all. So while we can't know for sure, the answer probably has something to do with money. I mean, Carrie sure came a long way from working for free, but if you're a Mythbusters superfan, you don't have to worry that there's bad feelings between Carrie and her co-stars. That continued with the show. Because Adam and Jamie claim that the three are still very good friends, and they had no role in the negotiations that ousted Carrie. And she doesn't seem to hold a grudge either, given that she returned in 2016 to shoot a bonus episode. So consider this myth plausible. Myth: Carrie's job almost caused issues with her pregnancy. In 2009, Carrie got some huge news. She was pregnant with a baby girl. Now, while I'm sure she was overjoyed, this definitely had the possibility to cause some more complications with her job. But was the situation so serious that it threatened the health of the soon-to-be baby? Okay, so Carrie's pregnancy was an issue, and it wasn't just the typical problems with scheduling and baby bumps. No, Carrie had a different worry. Her job required her to work with tons of explosives, literally tons, and mountains of missiles, all of which could certainly do damage to a developing child. In fact, when she went to the doctor, she had to ask them, what are the effects of close-range gunshots on a baby's growing ears? How far did she have to keep away from explosives? I mean, I bet your mom didn't have to ask the doctors these questions, right? They were so unique the doctor didn't really know how to answer them, so he got more specialized doctors to help. Fortunately, the story does have a happy ending. The doctor eventually was able to find this information needed, and it turns out a baby develops ears at 5 months. Cool, now I know. And Carrie wisely decided to follow his advice. And when her daughter was finally born, there were no problems with the happy top.
That is right in the range.
As for this myth, we can safely say that it's true. Kari Byron was a star on Mythbusters for being a can-do kind of gal.
And we'll see how the tips average out.
I like it.
Whatever crazy question there was to test, Carrie was right there with the ammunition to test it. But as we've seen, even a rock star like her has ups and downs, both in her personal life and career. And it just goes to show, behind every single one of us, there's a million myths to be busted. So what do you think about Carrie? Do you think she deserved to be canned? Do you think she's telling the truth about the rumors about Tori and her? Or could she be hiding something? And finally, make sure to tell us.
Okay.
What are your favorite wacky Mythbusters experiments? Get in the comments and let us know. And before you go, please smash the thumbs up icon. Explode it even, I don't care. Subscribe to the channel and come back often so we can always tell you what happened?